Today on Discover the Word, continue a conversation we're having with author Kenneth Bailey that demonstrates how much of a difference it makes to look at a couple of incidents in Jesus' life through first century Middle Eastern eyes rather than 21st century Western culture eyes. At the end of Luke 18 and the beginning of Luke 19, we find Jesus in Jericho, interacting with a poor blind man named Bartimaeus, and also a rich tax collector named Zacchaeus. And even though in our Bibles, these two incidents are separated by a chapter division,
the two are meant to be read together. Obviously, they've been put together by the tradition and by Luke in the Scripture for a purpose. And the purpose is, the first story is Jesus dealing with the oppressed, and the second story is Jesus dealing with the oppressor. And they're two sides of a coin, and amazing two sides of a single coin.
Yeah, that's our guest, author Ken Bailey, and you'll discover today what's so amazing about the stories of oppressed, blind Bartimaeus and oppressor, rich tax collector Zacchaeus. Discover the Word with us next. Hi, Brian Haddon welcoming you back to a special week of conversations on Discover the Word that Haddon Robinson and Alice Mathews are having with author Kenneth Bailey. In his book, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes, Cultural Studies in the Gospels, Ken fills in so much cultural and contexting information about what the world was like when the accounts of Jesus' life were written. And we've been stressing for years here on Discover the Word the importance of context. And that's why we're so excited to have these conversations with Ken Bailey. Having lived in the Middle East for a good part of his life, he's able to bring us a perspective that I think you'll find amazing. Okay, so yesterday, Ken talked with Haddon and Alice about the first story at the end of Luke 18, about Bartimaeus and how Jesus reached out to him, an oppressed blind man. And now today, at the beginning of Luke 19, the oppressor, rich tax collector Zacchaeus. And by the way, if you missed yesterday, you need to go online and listen. There's info you need from that conversation to fill in with today at discovertheword.org. Well, Jesus, who is a distinguished guest, is in Jericho. And having healed blind Bartimaeus, he is now about to meet Zacchaeus. So let's pick up the story with Kenneth Bailey, helping us to see Jesus through Middle Eastern eyes.
Well, the community has prepared a banquet for him. And so he doesn't attend the banquet. The text says he entered Jericho and was passing through. And there was no joy in Mudville that day, because what are we going to do with this huge stack of goodies and the big banquet and all of that? When I was teaching in Jerusalem, we were privileged to have ex-President Carter and his wife Rosalind, and we were to serve them tea, and everybody who knew how to spent the week preparing goodies, and then the meetings ran late, and they walked through the dining room and sipped one cup of tea, and off they went, and, oh, good grief. Now, what are we going to do with all this stuff? It was enough to feed an army there. So that same disappointment is in Jericho. He doesn't have time for us. The rabbi said that the sycamore fig, which is the tree that's mentioned here, and it's mentioned specifically, very, very rare in Scripture that you're told what kind of a tree is discussed in any particular story. So it's obviously important. The rabbi said that the tree has big limbs and reaches out, and if you'd grow it in your backyard, it will reach out over the street, and there's potential for defilement from people who in the backyard of the house would go into the tree, and anybody walking under the tree will then become defiled. Very curious logic that the rabbis used there. In any case, the ruling was that sycamore figs must be grown at least 50 yards outside of town. So Jesus is going through Jericho. They are outside of town. Zacchaeus is short, and we think he just can't see over the crowd. He's powerful. He's the tax collector of the district, and he has the right to raise or lower the taxes that he gives to anybody, because the Romans didn't ask him how much money he collects. They just said, we want X number of denarii at the end of the year, and he can rob them blind in order to get that and make his own profit. And there was no set code that he had to follow. So he's despised because he has betrayed his own people by becoming a tax collector for the oppressive Romans that had conquered them some decades before. So he doesn't dare get into that crowd because violence could be done to him. A quick flash of the knife, the stifled cry, nobody finds the body until the party is over, and here you got a body in the street and you can't arrest 3,000 or 4,000 people. Collaborators don't mix in crowds. I can tell stories about this because I've seen them. They don't mix in crowds. They're always careful about their back. He wants to see Jesus. The only way he can do it is to run. He runs down a back street. Powerful people don't run in public with long robes in the Middle East because you can't run in a choir robe unless you pull your garments up and then your underwear shows, and that's humiliating. So no one's watching him. It doesn't matter. And he runs out of town, and he picks his tree carefully. The sycamore figs have very large limbs that go out sideways, and that's why they were grown, to make the beams for the roofs of people's houses. And it has big leaves. It's the only indigenous large-leaf tree of the Holy Land. He hides in the tree. Powerful people don't want to be seen climbing trees at public parades in any culture, including our own. His Honor the Mayor doesn't climb a tree. He watches from the reviewing stand when the 4th of July parade goes by. So this guy hopes that the crowd is going to be gone, and he's going to be able to peek through the leaves and look at Jesus. It isn't. They spot him. Now, we know they spot him because of the fact that Jesus is able to call his name. Now, you can go the theological route and say, well, Jesus, Son of God, knows everything. Of course he knows his name. And that's true. But at the same time, whenever Jesus knows something that otherwise he would not know, the text says, he knowing all things said. We don't have that here. So the natural assumption is that the crowd is calling out Zacchaeus' name. They've spotted him. And if Jesus can see him, so can the crowd. And what does the crowd have to say now that the polecat is treed? All kinds of choice things that they wanted to say in his office for the last 20 years, but couldn't because there would be serious repercussions. Now you can hide behind the person in front of you, duck down a little bit, and any four-letter word is okay. And one catcall triggers another, and pretty soon there's a whiff of violence in the air. And Jesus is expected to respond. And he's supposed to say, Zacchaeus, you deserve all of the hostility of this community. You've betrayed your nation, you've betrayed your God, you've betrayed the law of Moses, you have drained the economic lifeblood out of these people and given it to their enemies, and you're lucky that they've not strung you up in the tree in which you're trying to hide.
But he doesn't say that.
That is not what happens. With all of this hostility, bristling hostility, Jesus says, Zacchaeus, I didn't think I had time to talk to anybody in your town. I've just changed my mind. Come down, and I will go home with you, and I'm going to spend the night in your home. And then we're told the crowd murmurs. And what's going through their mind is, this guy thinks he's the messianic pretender. We know the Messiah is supposed to deliver us from the Romans, and now he's on his way to remember our political liberation from Egypt, and he engages in a gross political indiscretion by cooperating with this guy who is an agent of the oppressive powers. And the people are saying to themselves, there's time for us to get word to Jerusalem about this political indiscretion, and when he gets there, the big boys in Jerusalem will know how to deal with him. All of this is going on. And the rules of ceremonial purification said that you can't sit on chairs that defiled people have sat on, or you become defiled. And you can't sleep on their beds because then you become defiled. So Jesus is going to be, according to the rabbinic rules, by the time he comes out of Zacchaeus' house, he will be defiled. Jesus doesn't care. If there's a price to be paid, he'll pay it. I call this a costly demonstration of unexpected love. And if the cost factor reaches a certain level, it becomes a life-changing power. Zacchaeus knows Jesus is going to get hurt because of what he, Jesus, is doing for Zacchaeus. This is round one. They will not forget this. And Zacchaeus says, he's getting hurt for me. We're talking about one of the important layers of the meaning of the cross.
Indicated in this story.
Indicated in this story, exactly. He goes into Zacchaeus' house, and of course, once he gets there, they are reclining. Middle-class and upper-class homes had a big U-shaped couch that they reclined on, and the food was in the middle. And they reclined on their left side and used their right hand to eat with. And as they're reclining, then the story says that Zacchaeus stood up. Nobody tells him what he has to do. But in the middle of the evening, he senses, I have to respond. And when he stands up, he deals with the deepest level of who he is. Nobody gives him a rule book and says, well, you got to start observing the Ten Commandments. That's assumed. But he's got to go beyond that. And what is the going beyond that that will be an adequate response to this incredible, costly love that has just been demonstrated to him? He responds out of the deepest level of who he is and makes a pledge to clean up his financial act with the community. It's a wonderful story. You know, I've spent my life in the academy, and the disease of the academy is intellectual arrogance, and every professor's got 10 ways to tell the student your trouble is you're stupid. And all of us have experienced that at some time or another in our education. And if my commitment to the gospel doesn't deal with this disease of my profession, then I have not responded to the gospel. And that's what happens in this story.
This is a key place in Luke, isn't it? The crowd is following Jesus, but this incident with Zacchaeus changed everything, and now the one that they were following and to defeat the Romans has given away how he's going to do it, and he isn't going to do it by shooting them down.
No, he's going to absorb hostility, and in the absorption of it, it's going to die. Jesus said, today salvation has come, passive, to this house. Who brought it? Jesus did. How? By offering incredibly costly love to this outsider. Since he also is a son of Abraham, everybody had said, no, he's not one of us. We don't like him. He's betrayed his Abrahamic heritage by what he's done. For the Son of Man came to seek, that's Bethlehem and Christmas, and to save, and that's Jerusalem and the cross. The lost. Wonderful story.
Thanks, Ken. We've been talking to Kenneth Bailey about his book, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes.
All right, with Haddon Robinson and Alice Mathews and our guest Ken Bailey, this is Discover the Word. And Ken, as Haddon mentioned, is the author of a book titled Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. After spending several decades of his life, I think he said 60 years on Monday, living and teaching in the Middle East, Ken possesses a remarkable ability to understand the culture and the landscape that Jesus lived in, really all the Bible took place in, and communicate it to Westerners like you and me who may not have had the experience in the Middle East that he has. I find that Ken's book is an engrossing study of the cultural keys that we miss when we read Scripture. So again, it's called Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. And hey, by the way, if you missed the previous two conversations we've had this week with Ken Bailey, we make all of our programs available to you at no charge, and you can access them anytime, day or night, on our website at discovertheword.org. That's discovertheword.org. Well, tomorrow we will meet again with Haddon and Alice and our guest Ken Bailey to talk about the women in Jesus' genealogy, because there are some interesting stories in the generations before Christ, and we will find the gospel in a list of names. So let's discuss that together next time here on Discover the Word. Discover the Word is provided by RBC Ministries, the publishers of the Our Daily Bread devotional booklet.